JW players, Nuno and Pooja. Yes. All right.
Hey everyone.
Hi.
I'm not used to handheld mics, so if you can't hear me, I'll try to repeat myself. Hello everyone, so I'm Nuno Pinge. I'm the lead engineer for the media engineering team at JW Player. I've been with JW Player for a little bit more than a year now.
Hi, I'm Pooja. I work with Nuno. I am a video engineer at JW Player. We also work on the same team. Very happy to be here. Thank you for having us.
So today we're going to be talking about Dash and VP9. And although you might associate JW Player with Dash and VP9 playback, we're actually going to talk about how we encode with VP9 and how we deliver with Dash. So for some of you that might not be aware, we actually have a product called JW Platform, where we actually host, transcode, and publish content at scale. So if you're not aware of it, please check it out. So what are our product goals for VP9 in Dash?
Okay, to take it away, some of the product goals for us in VP9 and Dash is to provide better quality videos for those users who are on constrained bandwidth networks. Like if you're watching something on a 3G or a 4G network, or if you're watching something from a rural environment where you have inconsistent bandwidth, you're going to be trying to make sure that you have the ability to get higher quality videos. This also sets up a nice way for us to get ready for when we want to deliver 4K at 60 frames per second, deliver 360 video, or even eventually deliver videos with HDR content. So why VP9? Why the choice of a new codec and not use something existing? H.264, even though it is the king of the land today, it is not giving us the kind of bitrate savings and the quality that we need for the problems that we're trying to save. With VP9, we saw an almost 50% bitrate at higher resolutions, and we're really happy with it. So once again, why VP9 and not HEVC? In this case, as an OVP, we need the person who wins the browser wars for us, and VP9 clearly supported on almost all of the more popular browsers today. And finally, it is not encumbered by any licensing issues. So it's a win-win for us with VP9. Under the hood, what does VP9 look like? First of all, our VP9 implementation is optimized for Dash delivery, for it to be compliant with an adaptive bitrate streaming. One pass was not great. We saw spiky bitrate and very unreliable rate control. So we decided to use 2-pass. Obviously, with 2-pass, we're doing more work, hence more encoding time. It adds to about 20% per encode. But the rate control was fantastic. We were seeing more accurate data rate control, and there was a boost in quality. On the bright side, for future, if we just generate the first pass log for the highest resolution that you require, you will be able to use it for the lower ones. The issue with that would potentially be that the file sizes at lower resolutions kind of gets a bump up or a bloat. The bitrate savings. It's on a graph right now. Here, the blue one is H.264 and the red one is VP9. So how did we generate it? The blue here is the JW platform implementation of H.264. We use this as a baseline for a sample set of videos. And we started generating the same set of videos for VP9 and continuously knocking down the bitrates. Each time you reduce the bitrate, generate the video, look at it, look at the PSNR value, and also look at it to see subjectively what is the subjective quality like. Eventually, we stop reducing the bitrate at a point when we start seeing perceptual quality degrade. So eventually, we got the set of data points, you fit a curve, and this is the results that we end up with. Both are quadratic. It's not that one is massively different from the other, but VP9 definitely grows at a much lower rate than what H.264 does, and we can see that the distance is much farther away at 4K, and if we choose to go higher. Next up, rate control. Once again, this is optimized for Dash. We're not, while we would like really small file sizes for savings, this is something that has to be delivered over the web, and we need it to be streaming friendly. So it is an implementation that has regular keyframes inserted in the stream. And with this, we chose the method to do constrained quality, which is not pure VBR, but it is VBR with the CRF and a bitrate that caps the CRF values. That is, CRF drives the rate control, where it is going to try and compress the video as much as it can, but during really difficult scenes, when the bitrate tries to spike, it has an upper bound with the target bitrates. VP9 has definitely looked good for us, it's not disappointed, but the issues that we saw were more with the usage of libvpx. At 4K, you can see that it was kind of a very bad timing with our implementation. Of course, sliced encoding will be the holy grail. If we can get it, that'd be awesome, but until then, if you want to do it in a serial fashion, these are some of the takeaways that we have. So what are the idea here is to deliver a video, a high quality video over the web, which means we want to have bitrate savings, but we also want to deliver video at high quality. At the same time, we really don't want to blow a hole through our pocket. We want computation efficiency. We want to save on computation costs. So trying to tune parameters, trying to tune CRF, trying to tune bitrate was where most of the effort that went in. With higher CRF values, we saw that the time to encode was lower, but the quality was not great. With so lower CRF values, time to encode was fine, but there was a huge file size bloat. Simply increasing CRF and throwing more bits at it, horrendous encode time. So with these three parameters, we chose a set of values, a range of values for each of these parameters, and ran it through a grid search-like algorithm, where we maintain some of them, vary only one, try to generate an output file, look at it, measure, monitor the file size, monitor the time to encode, and the video quality. Generate 1,000 of them and figure out what's the sweet spot. The sweet spot, one that maximizes video quality, minimizes time to encode, and also tries to give you an optimal bitrate for the target file. So based on that, this is how our output files looked like. For about 1,000 videos, we generated the plot at various resolutions, not considering 360 for a second. Let's look at the other three. We're looking at 4 histograms here. Each histogram is split by the resolution of the output video. The x-axis simply represents the bitrate in megabits per second. If you consider the midpoint of the x-axis for each of the histograms as a switching bitrate, we can see that the maximum of the weight is towards the left, which the videos do conform to the max target, max rate that we are setting, and we're pretty happy with it. This is something that helps us directly with Dash so that we don't have horrible down switches every time or spiky quality variations. Off to Nuno for Dash.
So why did we decide on Dash? As in HLS, right, it's over HTTP, which is ubiquitous. You can bypass firewalls, proxies all over the world, and it's an open specification where people can still contribute, and it's still evolving, and allows for royalty-free codecs, which makes a safe cost to the end user on our OVP. So it also provides or allows us to have a larger impact on mobile devices due to constrained bandwidth. Our current Dash implementation is a simple, not simpler implementation, and at this point, we're only supporting the simple on-demand profile. We're not yet delivering live streams with Dash, but we plan to in the future. We support 5 representations at this point, and the maximum spatial resolution that we support is 1080p. For playback, and because we have this OVP and JW platform, we are able to integrate vertically all our media publishing and delivery. So we're using JW Player itself with MSE to deliver Dash. For player version 7.6, we integrated with Shaka V1. And for 7.7, we integrated with Shaka V2, which allows us for a much better user experience. Thank you, player team, for that integration. So regarding architecture, we decided to go with a very simple architecture implementation. We have JW Player deployed all over the world in different regions. And what this allows us is that we use byte range requests from the player to our CDN providers. And we are able, because of this architecture, we're able to integrate multiple CDNs and benchmark them depending on the region. So there might be a publisher that is in India that requires much higher performance, and if a specific CDN provider is not performant in that region, we're able to switch it really easily. So as I said, we're using HTTP byte range requests. We're able to easily cache those partial requests at the edge. And this allows us to, conversely, against HLS, we are able to avoid having a transmuxing and packaging layer between those. One other advantage of this architecture is that allows for straightforward integration with different CDNs. At this point, we're using Varnish and VCL, but it's really easy to port our implementation of our caching mechanism to Nginx and Lua, for example. As it is part of our company's culture, there was no Python Dash manifest generation available, and we decided to open source a simple package that does generation and validation, and it is fast enough for our implementation. Right now, this package only supports the simple on-demand profile, but feel free to make a contribution and we'll merge your pull request. So at this point, I believe Eric just gave me some metrics, and in our JW platform, we have 10 publishers that are using VP9 and Dash for delivery, and at this point, we're doing 230,000 plays with VP9 and Dash.
Again, only 10 publishers have gone live with it fully, not all of our publishers. So a lot of our data is limited to the number of people who are using this product. The key point for us, or the key victory for us here, is that even though more streams were delivered on HLS, the people who did receive streams on VP9 and Dash received them at a higher quality. That is, 65% of the people who received VP9 streams got them at 1080p, but only 28% of the people who were watching the streams on HLS were able to view them on H.264. Here, we have not included 360p because that seems to be the video that gets picked up at start for us. So that was pretty much head-to-head. Other than that, if you look at it, the videos at 480p and at 720p, more people were getting the videos at H.264, more people were getting the videos on H.264, but at 1080p, VP9 and Dash are clearly the winner, with over 60% of the people getting the videos in 1080p. We hope our customers feel this way at the end of it, get more videos and at higher quality. And we have a small demo for you guys. Fingers crossed for that. Hoping to make the internet a better place with cat videos. Simple playback with cat. You'll see an upswitch soon.
And the other demo that we have prepared for you is basically a side-by-side player. It's basically a side-by-side player. We still have time, so. as I was saying, we prepared a demo where we can have a side-by-side player of tiers of steel, and one of them will have the Dash player enabled, and the other one the HLS version of it. So what we have for this demo is that every single asset is loaded without constrained bandwidth. So all the manifests, all the player JavaScript, the Shaka provider, all the other providers are loaded without constrained bandwidth. But for HLS, we constrained the bandwidth for the TS segments, and for Dash, we constrained the bandwidth for the byte range requests. And this is basically the experience that we are able to provide to our customers that enroll into VP9 and Dash.
We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Look, Celia, follow our passions. You have your robotics, and I just want to be awesome in space.
Why don't you just admit that freaked out by my robot hand?
I'm not
freaked out by my robot hand.
I'm not freaked out by fine.
As you can see, the player on the left tried to upswitch until 1080p, then it effectively downswitched when it adapted to the available bandwidth, and the player on the right downswitched to 180p, and at this point it will probably upswitch, but there's still rebuffering on the right side. So this is a clear example of the experience that you can achieve, for example, in mobile devices. There you go, the buffering. Yep. The customer is abandoning now the playback.
That's not a bad thing.
Apparently not.
Ooh, ouch, that was particularly painful. Once again, none of this would have been possible without the support of the open source community, open source tools and software. Huge shout out to FFmpeg and the WebM community and LibVPX. Come check our meetup. We have a small community of video engineers in New York as well. We hope to grow as large and wonderful as the one in San Francisco. Josie here is the person who, she's the one who to speak to about this. And thank you again for having us here.
Since there are two, just shout out your questions, and if you guys don't mind, just repeat it.
Sure. Just one more note, so this would not be possible without the growing team or media services team at JW Player. If you are looking for a job and would like to work with us, check our careers page at jwplayer.com/careers.
Any questions?
Okay, hi.
Yeah, so when you showed the charts where you compared like on VP9 with Dash, you get more like 1080p playbacks. What contributed to that difference? Is that because the bandwidth was like the bit rates were like lower for VP9, so the clients use, or that comes to the algorithm that player used to basically select the string?
It is the algorithm that the player uses to choose it. The player does not at this point give preference to Dash over HLS. If Dash is available, it plays Dash. But the eventual key selection for the resolution is definitely the client's bandwidth. It's based on that, whatever is the client's bandwidth, then you request that resolution appropriate to that bandwidth. With H.264, since the files were encoded at higher bit rates, fewer people have that kind of bandwidth in order to watch those videos, hence the skew in 1080p towards VP9 and Dash.
Okay. And other times include switches back and forth between the resolutions? or?
That is a client side dependency, which is how Shaka is the base engine that we're using. So it's entirely limited by the number of switches that the engine requests. And that's also limited by the minimum number of up switches don't have, I think, happen only every 30 seconds. So I think you hold on to that. Sure. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is it safe to assume that there are fewer rebuffering events or percentages with VP9 or that you saw in the? So, for example, you had the data point that 65% is at 1080p on VP9. Is it safe to assume that there were fewer rebuffering events under VP9?
I would say we don't have enough data for
Yeah.
that yet.
We-
We are planning. So basically, the question is if there are, we can assume there are less rebuffering events with VP9 than with H.264, correct? So we don't have enough data for that. One of the key points that we didn't show here also is time to first frame. So we are in the process of promoting the product and having more people on board with VP9 and Dash. And at some point, we'll probably have a more technical blog post about those parameters. At this point, for mobile devices, we would say that it's fairly safe to assume that there's less rebuffering events.
Yes.
On your CRF test, what did you see on things like if you had a video that was different than one, it was real simple, and you could use like possibly higher CRF values? Did you see any interesting things there where you could like possibly go really high on CRF on some content and make that? How could you make that decision automatically, and also even throughout content, parts of it could have different CRF values? Did you look at that at all?
The question was regarding how we tuned the CRF values, and with videos that do not have as much complexity, higher CRF values would do fine, and how did we make a choice of a single number?
Too.
Yes, we flipped the coin. We flipped the coin. No, I'm joking. So yes, ours is a transcoding pipeline that ingests a large number of videos on a single given day. Being able to customize the parameters that works great for one file is not a viable solution.
Right,
So I think at this point we went for a collective. What works for 75 to 80% of the videos should potentially help with them. So not tuning it for a specific slice of content, but more generally a large variation of what works.
Did you see any possible future like handles to grab onto to figure that out automatically, or is that any interest?
No, not right now. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you. Yes. Yes. Hi.
So in your 4K comparison, I saw that H.264 is using like 25 megabits per second, which is kind of typical to me. But your VP9 is kind of really too good to be believable.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about what configuration you use and what's the encoding frame rate and what content did you test with?
Sure. The encoding frame rate, horrendous, of course. At this point, we were seeing 3 frames for 1 hour if you're doing 4K at 60 frames per second. If you're trying to do 3 frames at 1 hour when you're doing serial encoding, not a viable solution. But with similar encoding parameters that we use for 1080p, yeah, 6.5 to 7 megabits per second will give you a nice 4K for the content that we had. And the test videos that we used were selected from a bunch of our customers, our publishers, who have high volume hosting and streaming. These were videos with chunked into spatial and temporal complexity with low, mid, and high over a various set of publishers, and the videos that were tuned for them. Most of them were short form videos, so for them at 6 megabits per second, we were reasonably happy. Or rather, we were seeing comparable quality with respect to our H.264 platform at this point, which was the goal. Thanks.